Greetings. I am the doctor, and with me as always is Dr. Tiny. This will be documenting the second week of Squeaky's progress, though this would be approximately his third week of life, since we found him when he was approximately a week old. To catch you up, Squeaky is a house sparrow that my husband found on our front step, and it was just a nestling then, and due to circumstances, I have been raising it with the intent to release it back into the wild of the courtyard in, well, fairly soon now. This report will be discussing August 3rd to 9th, thereabouts. So, some time ago. See, I do refer to Squeaky as him or it most of the time. I do not actually know Squeaky's sex. I will not know until he molts for the first time and gets his adult coloring, because house sparrows, do look, the males and females do look different. Right now, Squeaky still has, his baby coat. So, he could be mistaken. So, once he molts, if he still looks more or less the same, then it turns out that he's female. And if he gets more of a gray head and a chestnut color on the sides of his head, then it will turn out that he is male. But I don't know, and I doubt Squeaky knows either. Now, at this point, Squeaky has reached the fledgling stage, and this week I intended to work on increasing his strength, both in hopping around and in flight. So we have been spending far more time in the bathroom to give him more space to flap around. At the beginning of the week, he could get perhaps a couple feet off the ground in flight and then would come back down immediately, just because he didn't have the strength or the, quite enough feathers for it. By the end of the week, he was, flying around and getting, on top of the door lintel, on top of the shower, basically getting anywhere he wants in the bathroom, and dodging my attempts to grab him and put him back in containment when playtime is over. And also dodging my attempts to grab him to take a look at his leg and see how that is progressing. Because one of the... Squeaky is overall very healthy, very strong, but when he fell out of his nest, I think he must have, damaged, not his elbow, but on a bird, the backwards knee is actually their wrist. And he damaged that, and I've been keeping track of that. It seems that it's the joint that is damaged. It is swollen. I did consult with a vet, or at least I went in and talked to them, because they are not licensed to look after wild animals. And the vet I spoke to said that the two options are either that I continue to look after him and hope for the best, because birds can do fine with only one leg, or to take him to a proper wildlife rehabilitator. The problem is that the only wildlife rehabilitation center in Toronto does not take songbirds. They are not set up for it. And, well, funding is limited, and there are a lot of little birds in the world. So in my choice, I decided that, and well, the vet said, her advice was really 50-50 either way. Like, both have their pros and cons, and I decided that, I would simply continue to work on increasing Squeaky's strength in his left leg. And he seems to be quite adaptable. He can't put weight on his right foot. He can balance on his ankle, and he can control it. Like, I've seen him scratch himself by just kind of flopping his arm or leg. But other than that, he doesn't seem to have a great deal of control over it. Like, the thumb moves, but the fingers don't seem to. And it's hard to tell if it hurts him, because if I am holding him to inspect his legs, he is yelling and wiggling. So how much of that is pain and how much of that is just him wanting to be free, I can't really tell. I did end up purchasing a couple of packs of live mealworms, and Squeaky thinks these are quite delicious. Now, you may ask, how many mealworms can a sparrow eat in a day? Well, Squeaky will happily devour 5 at a sitting. Yes, I do not give him all the mealworms that he craves, just a few, to get him used to live insects, live prey, because an adult sparrow should be eating about 90% seeds and 10% insects. Once he fledged, I did start leaving seeds in his containment so that he could snack on them when he pleased. At first, he wasn't interested, but over the week, he has been nibbling at them more. However, he still likes me to feed him mealworms and bits of soggy cat food. He is still, a baby, even if he's looking more like a proper sparrow these days. And he still needs the protein to help his growth. Also, fledgling and juvenile sparrows will still mooch up to their parents for feeding, for a few weeks. So Squeaky is well within the bounds of young house sparrow behavior. Yes, he has also gotten a little more sneaky, because sometimes when I open the containment to feed him, he will manage to fly out past me and will smugly fly around my office for a little bit until I am able to catch him. And he is getting more difficult to catch by the day, which is an excellent thing, since, I will be releasing him to the wild once I deem him strong enough and clever enough to do so, and he is, becoming quite strong and quite clever. My cat Mac is a little more interested in him now that, I mean, one, Squeaky is in a cat carrier because I don't have a bird cage. And also, he is noisier and flaps around more. And Mac finds that more interesting. He is still not, you know, hunting. He's just curious. But I prefer to keep Mac away from Squeaky now because, not because I think Mac will hurt him on purpose, but Mac might knock over the cat carrier or, otherwise cause trouble, not on purpose. Now that Squeaky spends more time in the bathroom exercising, I have little to do in those times except for, sit around and film his progress to keep an eye on him. So, do enjoy Squeaky.